This event, it is the third time that we are doing this master class called Women in Filmmaking, and we have with us our moderator, Sebastian Siegel, and we also have on the panel three very distinguished filmmakers themselves. We have Mary Apick, we have Diane, we have Diane Baker, and we have Valerie McCaffrey. So I would like to just thank you all for coming and hope that you will be able to attend as much of the festival as you were able to this year. We have a great number of films. And so I'm going to pass this over to Sebastian to start us off.
I presented a few films at ARPA, and I want to thank, this is the 27th year. I want to thank you all for your devotion to this incredible film festival founded around the theme of the Arpa River, which runs through Armenia, which is the lifeblood, not just of Armenia, but really of cultures connecting one another, and symbolic of also this life and poetry and storytelling that brings. So Diane, Valerie, Mary, is there a moment, I'd like to ask each one of you, that you thought, I'm going to be a storyteller, and I'm going to be a storyteller in film, particularly? And if you could describe what that intuition or moment was for you.
This works right now. Well, I was born in the industry, literally, because my mom, she's a legendary actress from Iran, and she never wanted me to be an actor or director or any of this. She wanted me to be a ballerina and a pianist. And so I attended the Conservatory of Music, which she actually graduated from. And but I started my career just accidentally when I was only 11 years old. And I always wanted to be on the stage, and then later on films, which I did a lot of work back in Iran in the golden era. And excuse me. So it reached to a point that I think I was like maybe 15 or 16. I was very much attracted to the concept of directing. So I remember with my partner that I worked with for many years, I always wanted to be his assistant director. Also, I was a movie star, but I always wanted that part. It was really attractive to me. And as an actor, I always thought I would be a better director because I know how the feel of the project is, and I want to imply that to the actor. So I started that way, and I did those stuff. And but I knew that eventually I would do directorial or producing pictures. And of course, my journey is a completely unusual journey because we went through the revolution in Iran, and everything stopped after major awards internationally and this and that for me. And I had to start from zero in this country, literally zero. I wanted to be in the film industry, and I wanted work. I knew as an actor there were many challenges, and I really tried very hard. Actually, I have to say this, my first legitimate job in Hollywood was picking up boxes of 35 millimeter in an editing room as an apprentice editor, because I couldn't find any job. Everybody hated Iranians, and the media was with the hostage crisis, so money was not coming in from Iran to support me or to help me. So I said, I want to be in the film business. So how can I be in the film business? How can I start? And someone introduced me to some people, and then eventually I ended up in that editing room and trying to pick up the boxes and making the strips of film and all that. I'll never forget that. It was a great experience for like $300 a week. So I can pay my rent. And but the journey was that I really wanted to be a filmmaker. I always thought in my heart and soul there are stories that I want to share. And of course, acting was always coming first because I had a lot of experience in it. But I knew that I wanted to produce. I wanted to contribute. And of course, the journey continued to women's rights issue in Iran and everything that happened over there. So I had to be a voice there for them in Iran for the abuse that they were receiving via the government, the brutal government that they have there still to this day. And so my work just went one after the other, directing, producing theater projects and film projects that just address that issue.
So that's a long journey of being involved as an actor, being in a family that was involved in filmmaking, being in production. But if you could just draw, because I think so many people who will watch this and respond to this, girls, women, and men, want to know, to have the confidence to follow that intuition. So if you could just truncate into a sentence, was there one particular moment? Was it when you were with the boxes or when you were with your mother? One moment where you said, oh my God, I'm going to be a filmmaker. What was that one moment, if you can?
That one moment was behind a cam machine those days with the reels on it, and the editor, Glenn Farr, who was an Academy Award winner, and he's Armenian, half Armenian, and he was the boss, he was the editor, and he did the right stuff, and he won the Academy Award for it. So through the Armenian connection, I was working with him, he gave me that job actually. So there was a moment he told me, Mary, there's this scene I'm going to give you. Just edit it. And I knew how to splice it those days and all that. So I went to the other room. There was a smaller cam machine. And I sat there and I made that work. Because he said, this is really difficult within all the different shots. And I fell in love with it. I said, you know what? I have to do this somehow. In the back of my head, I have to do this and continue.
That's a beautiful story. I can picture it. Thank you. Diane, a moment for you.
Mine was a moment, literally a moment. Acting, working all the time on television and films. And finally, I'm reading a script that came to me from Roger Corman's office, where I was living in an apartment. And it was about a piranha. And I just said, this isn't what I got into acting to do. It's coming to a point now. I looked at the script, I got to page 30, and they're calling me and offering me more money. And I said, please, they were gas stations calling me, the old days when you actually had someone put gas in your car. My agent's calling me constantly over a weekend, and this money. I said, don't you get it? It's not about money. I realized at that moment, I hate to say this, but I actually threw the script into the bin. And I said, I have to make a film to be in charge. I can't let this go on where I'm taking what other people want to make. I have ideas. I know stories. I feel, I read. I love books. I love just going off of fictional stories a lot, and real. And people like Margaret Burke White, who, finally I wanted to make a film on her life as a female photographer in the world. And then it just developed from that moment. I got someone over. I started putting down ideas for stories. And one of the first ones was about in India. And that I still have, and I want to still make it. It's like a 30-page treatment. That came right out of my experiences, and I wanted to tell those. That was it.
So for you already working, the catalytic moment was when you read the script from Roger and you said, I can't do this.
I can't do it. I can't do this. I have to be in charge. I have to make the product. I can't sit by a phone. I can't wait. I can't have an agent calling me, pushing me into, I should never have done Straitjacket, although everybody, all they want to do. I just was at a Hollywood show, and a man flew from Washington with his wife. They had an actual axe made, normal size, out of rubber, carried it on a plane in like a violin, long case, came into the hotel with this axe. They opened it up, wanted me to stand there like this, like I'm going to kill this man. Mm-hmm. And they came and got a flight. They said, we came only for this from Washington State. And they flew back the afternoon. I said, I can't. Why did I do that movie? Why? That it follows me everywhere I go.
You know, it's ironic what you're saying, right? Because as artists, we have to have this intuition that we fall into things, some things we want to do and some things we don't want to do. And it reminds me, James Whitmore was a mentor for me, and he would get so upset about some of these films that he didn't want to do. He just wanted to shoot. He just wanted to do theater in New Hampshire. And then they would say, we'll pay you double. We'll pay you double again. We'll pay you double again, like you're saying with the accent. So then he would do those things, and then everybody would know him from those things, not the things that he really loved the most.
Sebastian, the secret is, if you say no and you mean it, they want you. Believe it or not. I mean, you can want it like desperation. A couple of things I wanted badly in films. And to want so much doesn't mean that you're going to have that, no matter how much you want something. So in a funny way, the being inaccessible makes them appear to find you more valuable.
That's a profound moment, I think, for a lot of artists. I've certainly experienced that, wanting something so bad and not getting it because I've been holding on too tight. And then just going in with my integrity and this sort of artist soul and saying, I don't want to do this, and then being able to change it or forge it. One question follow-up on that. I had dinner with Roger Corman a few months ago, and I'm going to call him. By the way, can I tell him that story?
I love Roger Corman. I think he's phenomenal, and we brought him up to my university and honored him. And he stayed 3 days with his wife, and I adored Roger Corman. I loved him, truly, a master, and trained so many people. It was just this particular script on the page that I couldn't do in the spirit.
Valerie feels is a catalytic experience or moment that you knew you were going to be a storyteller in film.
Well, I think it was just the progression of my life and the things that I did, because I've always told stories by casting actors that could tell the story in the best way possible. But it was also about me maturing as a human being and being able to know that I have the power to tell stories about social relevant subjects. And I think it started with my son, who was struggling with drug addiction. And I thought of a humorous way into telling a story and still being entertaining and still having a message. And then it ended, then I realized, well, you know, I have the power to communicate thoughts and make people laugh or make people cry. And that's when I think it was my life that led me to tell these stories. And I wrote a script about fentanyl just recently and I wrote a script about my cousin and they talked about the prisoners who sabotaged the beach bombing and how that was thousands and thousands of lives, which ended up as having us win the war, because quite honestly, this V2 bomb was so powerful, it would have destroyed the world. And so that story touched me in such a way that I had to make the short, and now I've written this feature-length screenplay. But I would not have done that if I hadn't been with my cousins talking about it and having just living life and being able to have things touch you in a way that you had to move on to other aspects of your creativity.
Thank you for that. It's the three of you are all articulating something that I think is very powerful for young artists, which is that there's this intuition in this moment that when it's happening, we don't know whether it's standing behind the box and the camera, or whether it's reading a certain script, whether it's having a conversation with your cousins that then later lead to saying, this is the track, and I'm on the right track. So that comes from inside. And I want to ask that is, then, as a young woman or as a girl, is there a moment in film where you saw a particular shot not in a whole movie, but a shot or a scene where you say, or even as an adult, where you say, that is such spectacular filmmaking that it stays with me. Not that it's filmmaking great from a critical standpoint, but for you, I couldn't stop thinking about that moment or that scene. Is there something you can reference contemporarily or from a long time ago for you that was emotionally powerful?
Well, naturally, being in the field, I really enjoyed watching other work from particularly the American actors or European actors that was available at the time. As I was a huge Woody Allen film, and the way he presented the film, it was like you were in a theater but on the screen. Because the way he shoots his films, the way he choreographs it, the way it's all a lot of master shots that actors are just coming in and out of it and making, the picture as opposed to cut. Majority of the film is getting worse day per day, by the way, that all this cutting exists in the film. I really enjoyed his work. And so directorially, I would really love to do something that was like him. As a director, but not as an actor. As an actor, I have always been a huge fan of Meryl Streep. And the fact that everybody tells me either I look like her or I look like Jane Seymour, or, many others that I apparently look like, it's an honor for me. From the time I was very little, I always told the story to them, what the play is about. And so I talked so much that they had to put me in the balcony. And they realized I'm telling the whole story and the lines. I actually said everybody's lines I memorized. And before they say it on stage, I said it in the audience. So they put me up there, and there was a scene, one which I was not aware of, that the character of the father is hitting the young woman, which was my mother. So I hadn't seen that, and I'm 5 years old. As soon as the actors start, in a fake way, beating my mom up, I'm screaming from the balcony, "Don't hit my mom, don't hit my mom." So everybody's head goes to the balcony, who's this person, and my mom says, "I lost my best moment. You ruined it for me." So after that, they didn't let me to go to the theater. But I think she is a great inspiration, and of course, Meryl Streep for me. And of course, the legendary Diane Baker and everything that she has done in the fall.
Beautiful. So then, to put, because I like to have very specific visuals, right, to the question, would it be then the moment or scene for you watching your mother, or is there a particular scene in a Woody Allen film that you said that particular scene stayed with me, or was it a scene seeing your mother?
It's mostly, I was very much influenced by my mom.
So that one moment, that time.
One moment was there since I was 2 years of age. I mean, it's just like I loved watching her, and I loved being her.
Sure.
I was very proud of her, and I still am. And she did so many different roles, super talented, but it was in Iran, and those days even television was not in Iran yet. So the theater was huge. And these theater groups were traveling from one city to the other, and I'm always with my mom. So I saw her doing a lot of roles. So she's a huge influence on my work today and what I'm doing.
Okay, beautiful. Diane, for you.
Three films, this is funny, why am I doing this? 3 films that stay in my mind that immediately come to my imagination, and that is watching Ingrid Bergman play concert piano in Autumn Sonata with her daughter watching her. That entire sequence where you watch the actress from Sweden who was star of all of Bergman's films. She's still alive. Her name? Huh?
Lev Olman.
Yes, thank you very much. I could never get enough of watching her face change, watching her see her mother. That scene, and Pumpkin Eater with Aunt Bancroft walking through the department store was after the breakup, her life flashing. And then also in Richard Price's recent movie with Richmond, Emma Thompson in the scene where she's unwrapping the Christmas gifts under the Christmas tree. And she feels that the gift that she saw her husband buying was not for her. It was a CD of maybe was it Joni Mitchell or one of the stars. And she goes into her room, has to close the door, and she's on her own in the bedroom. And it's her whole life before her eyes of her husband, her loss, her realizing he's someone else. I mean, I just sat there and I could watch it over, and there are scenes even in oh my God, James Dean, first big film.
Giant or Rebel?
No,
Mr. Whedon.
I'd say
But the moment though for you.
it's a moment when James Dean is on the Ferris wheel, and he has the entire scene with Julie Harris. And that entire scene is the most brilliantly played scene between two actors. Both of them during the film were brilliant. So that film I show the students, trying to find, I want them to see these moments because they're moments that transform.
You know, I appreciate so much what you're saying, and when you were describing particularly the opening of the gift and then her going in the other room and realizing the gift wasn't for her. And I think the power of filmmaking, that what is it that's great filmmaking? Because the shots and the score and the music, the acting, all these things are components, but really it's those moments where we say, as the audience, we can witness what these characters are seeing, that there are things that those characters don't see that are going to happen or are happening. And then it has us kind of hits us what's happening in my life that I don't see or that and this miracle that's going to happen.
Sebastian, you know, for all of us, there's so much noise going on, so much busyness, and so many movies being made with action and action. There needs to be time for the moments in life that happen to all of us that stay with us. Because if we don't have the moments in our daily lives within all this, there's all a bunch of noise. There's no memory of a moment.
And that moment, I can share something with you. Diane was with me, and I was proud to have her on a play that I did called Beneath the Veil at the Kennedy Center. Yeah. And she was playing the main reporter. And records everything, and there were stories around her. It was a very successful play. It became a critics' choice play. So we were on stage together, and there's this one moment that I would never forget about her acting. As she tells all these stories of these women, it's all from her point of view, from Afghanistan, from Iran.
They're on the stage.
On the stage, she's centralized on a bed because she's having a dream, and all these stories that she's reviewing, they come to life. That's the story of this play that I wrote. And then I was on stage with her, and there's this last moment that all these stories come to a conclusion, and everybody has told their stories, and Diane's direction was to go on top of the bed, stand there, and say, hear my story, hear my voice, which it was a reflection on all the women and the stories of women in the Middle East in this past 4 decades. So I always remember all the actors, we come around and we surround the bed, and we all lift our hands, and we just pointed at Diane, and she had a spotlight on her. And that moment, I have it on camera, actually. It's one of the projects that I have to finish and put it online or something. And she just stood there, speaking of that. You may not remember, but I remember very well. She stood there and she took her time. And she sort of bowed, and then suddenly she put her hands up and said, hear my voice, hear my story, here I am. And so that's the end of the play. So I always remember her in that moment, but it was stage work.
Oh, beautiful. I can't wait to see that when you put it on.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you wrote it, Mary, brilliantly.
Thank you.
Valerie, you've touched film in so many ways, from so many different perspectives, and so I'm so curious for you, something that was catalytic for you that you saw in film, whether it's moments or scenes.
Hands down, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You have the scene where they're all in a circle, and you see the manic and the disorders of each of these actors. And it, to me, scenes have to be authentic in everything that I absorb, and it touches me. It's because of its authenticity. And it's amazing that in this scene, there were young actors, that they were the first time acting in a feature film. And it has stayed with me. I have watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest many times. Usually, I don't watch a movie more than one time, to be honest, but I love the authenticity of the acting. That's what makes movies fly. That's even if a film is not well crafted, if the actors are good, you take away something from that film and you don't feel robbed because you saw their performances and they moved you. The one other one, I know you just asked for one, but I can do one other. Jeff Goldblum in Powder. If you watch him at the scene in the cafeteria, when he's talking to Sean Patrick Flannery, he is such a giving actor. All he had to do was listen, and he listened so well that he stole the scene from Sean Patrick Flannery. And this is so apparent in actors that when you listen, when you truly are listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's what makes, you don't have to speak to be an actor. You can listen, you can react with your face. This is your instrument, and using your instrument in the most amazing way that sometimes is forgotten in film and television.
That's so beautiful. As a director, I like to hold after the scene is done and just allow the actors to be quiet and see what's happening there. It's such a magic moment. You all three spoke also about scenes or films that have long sections without cuts, which is really saying that the three of you are so prolific, and that no matter what's happening in film, really at the core of it, the fundamentals to get those emotions, to laugh, to cry, we have to be in something and allow it to happen. I'd like to transition here for a moment to understand what the three of you are working on right now, what you have out now. I know the three of you are what you're excited about. Please, I know that you have a film that is now going to be in competition for the Academy Awards. I'd like to hear a little bit about that process and what you're excited about. If you can, it's hard to truncate that because obviously overnight is years, but if you can put it into, this is how we took these catalytic steps to make this happen, and this is where it's going.
Well, thanks to Sylvia Minasi and Sonia and Maral. Again, I have a nomination for a documentary I just recently made, and which is called Jewel of the Desert. And the attraction for this particular project for me was, as I think all of us as filmmakers and actors and being in this business is, as you just walk through life every day, you see so many things that you capture, and there you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to make this. It's a wonderful thing to say or to share with the audience. This is wonderful. And it goes on and on and on and on. So you have all this thinking about what am I going to make next. And my work has been so many different things, from musical for kids, from animation, from acting, from directing. There's so many different, but on this project, it came from the heart because I saw this bunch of old folks playing music in a church, in a band, desert brass band, and there are 38 of them, and they're all between the ages of 70 and 90, but voluntarily. They're so cute. They all wear their tuxedos and they come on stage and they play the brass band and they play music from Tchaikovsky and Rimsky-Korsakov all the way to Queen. So it's such a vibrant, great musicians. And I thought that really they are legitimate musicians. And then I realized at some point in life, they studied music. And then they went, one is an Air Force colonel, one is a life in Vietnam or this and that, and many different professional, different walks of life. And now at retirement, they have come to this tiny little city titled Surprise, which was a surprise for me, with 60,000 people living there. And they have created this band, and they're going from one place to the other, and they're giving joy to the audience, including children. So I decided this has to be filmed, and I eventually did that. In the course of a year and a half, I followed them, and we have the leader's 90th birthday in the film as well, which is really wonderful. They hardly can walk to get to the actual chairs, but when they're sitting there, when their instruments is out, my God, they are magic. So for me, that feel of bringing music to life of the children, and also to say in the retirement, there are a lot of hopes that you can share, not just go play golf or sit in front of a TV. Inspirational project. It took a long time, and right now we have been accepted and a contender at the Academy Awards for this year for Best Documentary. So I'm very proud of that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, with all the political Hollywood that exists, with all the advertising from Netflix for their documentaries and this and that, we're a very small, tiny little thing, but it could have a spark because of the inspirational side of it for people and for children. They have reacted to this, and I have a little 5-year-old girl in the film that she centralized, that wants to be a musician. So it's a heartwarming little film documentary for an hour, and hopefully it would have a long way to go.
I can't wait to see it.
Yes, thank you.
Diane,
I think it will have a very long life.
your mic.
I think I'm not used to this.
No, like me neither.
I think it's going to have a very long life with this project because it deals with something we inherently want in our communities, and that's joy. And the fact that people are working and living at 92 years old conducting. I mean, we've heard stories about great artists who couldn't even move their fingers and sat down at a concert piano and played brilliantly because that's what they understood in their bones was their life. And these people show you that this is their life. This is what they live for. And I'm doing the same now, strangely, at my age. I'm starting a nonprofit, hopefully 2025, right now, and looking for a space close to finding the right place for all the post-grads who aren't getting work, who've left film school, who just graduated, who can't get a job. They're in Hollywood driving Uber, or they're driving or delivering or not doing anything, and they need support to take a step to get in. So we have all above the line. I'm talking with George Clooney about his group downtown who are doing all below the line from 9th and 10th graders. They will graduate when they're 12th grade, and we will then be able to pull them over to work with our above the line and try to make a product, nonprofit. And they're all about stories. These people will gather together and we'll come up with stories from a commercial to a half hour to an hour to long form. And we will then work with people who aren't working. They're not, it's just that it's like a finishing school after you graduate. And it's filling the gap between academia and the real industry work, the world.
Beautiful.
And they need to get it in. And now, those two people sitting in the third row, Andy helped me with my PowerPoint presentation over a year. And Thomas is going to teach film history because he worked on Out of Africa with Sydney, and he loves movies. and worked for the Academy for years. So, everybody wants to come and do a class. They want to come and help. They want to show up or talk to the students. So mentors are going to guide them all through their project and be a part of making of the film. And then we'll see, nonprofit, what can happen after the fact. And I've been given a great gift, and I won't say how, but someone who passed away left me enough to start the program. So it's not like I'm starting on a left foot totally.
So for,
They're going to have to keep on going.
if people want to look into that, what is it called?
Right now it's Global Film Connect, but will be the Robert Osborne Center for Film Studies.
Beautiful. Valerie, for you, please.
Oh, my goodness. I have a film called Here's Yoni that is the opening night film tonight. So I hope to see you all there. What happened is I have a small group of actors that I manage, Mary being one of them. And an actor came to me who was at a crossroads in his career. And it was like the very beginning of me managing him. And this short film came over, and it was well written. It was going to be shot in the East Coast. And I read the script, and I told him, you must take a look at this. And he goes, well, is it a film? And I said, well, no, it's not a film. It's a short film. Because a short film, what do you mean? And I said, just read the script. So he read the script, and he goes, oh, okay, I like the script. It's actually very good. I said, yeah. He goes, I'm going to a wedding in the East Coast, so I'll do it. And so he met with the director. They did the short. His performance was really amazing. He usually plays mafia guys and, criminals. And this one was about a man who, when diagnosed with dementia, in his dementia, he imagines himself as a late night talk show host. So because of how he was received, we decided that we were going to develop the script for him. And again, this was based on the director and writer's father, who was a Greek diner owner in Asbury Park, New Jersey. So we developed the script and developed the script and developed the script. And then finally we got to a point where the script was in shape. We offered it to Julie Armand. We offered it to Kevin Pollak and to Rosanna Arquette. And then a lot of other actors came, like Eric Roberts, and et cetera, et cetera. But we didn't have financing. But because of Joe's short film, we found financing for it. Colleen Camp came on board to help us get the financing. And then we made this movie. And that's the film tonight. And it's really this film is really about love, but it is also very much about what you can do with very little and begin to create something a lot bigger. And creating, and Diane, what you're doing is, I think, so amazing, because we need to have mentors and people that help other artists. So we must keep this business alive. And we do it by creating content and taking control of your career.
So many people are not working in Hollywood. So many people are not working in Hollywood right now. And why? I don't get it. We want entertainment in these miserable times we're living in, unfortunately. But we need entertainment because they've always needed entertainment during tough times.
There is, I think, in a hopeful way, some sort of pushback with all the networks streaming so much that now having to pull back because people are feeling that everything is oversaturated. And I think there is this return to not just live theater or being in person in movies, but also longer scenes and things that are emotionally provocative. And I think I'm seeing a draw towards that, just in the business, not just as an artist, but also right as a producer. To close here, I'd like to talk for a moment. I'd like each of you to speak specifically to a component that I think differentiates film from any other medium of entertainment. And you had brought up when you were making your film, and you had mentioned this as well. Julie and I, actually, Armand and I had a discussion online after my first feature released about music and light being two of the main characters in my last film. And so I'd like for each of you to speak a little bit about those components that, beyond the actors and the script, that you find this is what gets the people to tears or to laughter, or does the movie live on? I'd like to go the opposite direction, starting with you, please, Valerie.
Yes, that is so important. I mean, have you ever watched a movie without music? It's really something a lot different. We actually had Diane Warren, who's been nominated a million times for an Oscar, write a song for her. And the lead singer, Pat Monahan, Train, performed it. And it was like a real gift to our movie because they saw the film and they really felt inspired by it. But the music can't overturn the movie. In other words, it can't be more powerful than the film. And sometimes you'll watch a film and you'll say, God, the music is so much. It should bring you to tears, it should bring you to laughter, it should bring you to all the things that you were talking about, but not overpower the film and its message. So we're just, and Forrest Gray, who's Spalding Gray's son, actually did the composing on our film. And it's subtle and beautiful and poignant and doesn't overpower the power of the actors in the film.
Beautiful. I really respect what you're saying there, because I think a lot of filmmakers start off and everybody wants this big John Williams score, which then can pull a scene, can be distracting from the scene, where you're having these moments where you were talking about as well, Diane, about the power between two actors is often just the listening. And if the music steals us from that, it doesn't support the story, right? Yeah, beautiful. Diane, for you, what music and light?
Music and lighting. You remember Chariots of Fire, everybody?
Sure.
And you remember it was at Fox, and someone made at Warner Brothers or Fox, and it was to be sold, and they wanted to say, oh, no one wanted it. They saw it until Vangelis put the music to it. I spent time with the man who was supposed to buy it. He lost it because he didn't want it when he saw it. And then someone else picked it up, Warner Brothers, I believe, because of Vangelis' music came together with the movie that made the movie. And you bring up Williams, John Williams, or you bring Ennio Morricone. I mean, there are songs from Cinema Paradiso that I go to in the middle of the night when I want to find solace. I go to Ennio Morricone and I listen to his beautiful music with the films, background music to films. So it's very compatible when a moment comes. I carry on my phone the scene with John Williams when he did Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List. I cannot tell you how it moves me. I cry every time. I carry the scene with Liam Neeson reaching out and feeling he failed. And suddenly the music, I mean, it's just there. It kills me. So, I mean, Stephen, as you'll see in the music by John Williams, directed by Laurent Bougereau, when he does the boom boom for Jobs, all he did was show Stephen. Stephen said, give me an idea. He goes at the bottom of the scale and he goes, boom, boom. Stephen said, that's nothing. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Well, you tell me.
And that becomes the sound of sharks. That becomes the sound of fear.
When the shark is coming closer and closer. boom, 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 boom. So I mean, what you can do, you can make sound effects.
Mary, please, for you.
Well, graduating from Conservatory of Music in Tehran, music was my life, and of course being in an Armenian family, from when I was 5 years old, my mom was playing this Anush opera, which is a brilliant opera, and my mom says when that moment came that the witch hunter said something negative about Anush, and she was just a young girl participating in a party, that your destiny would be something that has darkness in it. And Anush goes, ah. And on that from 5 years of age, I was in tears. Just that So music was in my family. My mom graduated from music school. I did music all the way, and classical music. And I had to study more music, and then I wrote pieces for my films that I did, 68 pieces. I wrote melodies for my children, videos that I created, and then I brought Yanni's director of Sharat Rohani to arrange it. To this day, music, of course, as Diane and Valerie, they mentioned, it has an immense amount of impact on a film used rightly. Not just all over the picture, and the directors should be very careful about it, because the musicians and composers can go on and make the most magnificent pieces, and they want it in there, and the director has to have this vision that what is the right momentum to bring it in. But however, when I was in Iran in the 1970s, and it was a genre of Ingmar Bergman, no music. The film has to speak for itself. So I was in a movie that I won the Best Actress Award in 1977 in Moscow International Film Festival, titled Dead End, Bombast. And this was a story of a mother and a daughter that they're living in an alley in Iran, in Tehran, in the middle class. And there's a guy who comes and stands on that alley and looks at the window that happens to be this young girl's bedroom. And she falls in love with him. There was not a single piece of music in this. The only time we had music in the entire an hour and a half was when I played the record and she is in a disco. No music whatsoever, and I was terrified. I talked to the director that I worked with many, many years, and I said, this is a mistake. I mean, you have to uplift this to a momentum, and he said, no, this picture speaks for itself. And it did. So there was that particular genre of filmmakers that they didn't use music, or not too much of a music, in the film industry in the world. So I personally think music is a very important element, and it has to be used in an appropriate way. We have, Hans Zimmer has done Gladiator and so many amazing, I played it in the car for my children when I was driving them from Beverly Hills all the way to Calabasas every day, 125 miles, which is a different story. It drove me crazy going back and forth taking care of them on the road, but I always played music in the car for them because I wanted the music is such an important thing to have in children's life, in school system, which we don't have it, and that's one of the messages that I have in my recent film. And of course, my recent film is all about music. So I feel that the contribution of the composers is essential, and the understanding of them, of the subject and the momentum each moment that you go forward. And of course, for lighting, that's essential. Beautiful, the whole combination, you can actually do a whole scene without, in a master shot, in a perfect lighting, and that the actors are moving around, and it can be so significant. I think is the collage and collaboration of wonderful actors, as you have mentioned, and the director, and the light, and the music, and the collage of all that makes a wonderful film.
And think about James Wong Howe, and remember HUD, and remember, you've got many, many great filmmakers who had such an imagination when it comes to lighting, and then they convinced the director that this is a route to collaboration. The key takeaway for me for filmmaking is collaboration. I couldn't do without asking somebody, what should we do? How should we?
And you work with Hitchcock, which is a master of lighting entertainment.
Yeah, but no collaboration. Forget it. But I have to say, he was a master. Master, again, but lighting, you're right, lighting is very important, and sound effects is important. All of it's important. Collaboration is important on a film. You can't do without, oh my God, Orson Welles, I watched when I was at Fox under contract. When he was doing a 10-minute trial scene, he was walking as a lawyer, and he stopped the take. The director didn't say print or cut. He stopped and said, "Get that man a sandwich," in the first row of the trial, of the group of people sitting at the trial, because his stomach just made a terrible noise. And he stopped and they had to get some food for the actor. But the fact is, every sound is picked up. You know, something is creepy. Silence at Diary of Anne Frank with the cat on the sink, pushing that little thing when the Germans are down in the front, listening, and they hear something move, and then they hear the meow of the cat. One of the most great scenes of suspense, I think, in film history.
The three of you, Mary, Diane, Valerie, thank you for your soulfulness and your integrity in storytelling and film, and thank you for joining us here today. It's a pleasure to speak with the three of you.
This should be, and I think my sisters, the founders, Sylvia and Maral and I, can push this forward as one of the best master classes I have experienced. As my spirit animal, Sebastian and I go a long way, but an amazing moderator. These three gifted, amazing souls covered everything from your questions. They covered all the components of the cinematic arena, of the theatrical arena, of all the conflicting emotions that went into each and every story. So let's face it, without our stories, we do not exist. And Diane, you get the last thing from me. Sylvia and I are the biggest fans of you, from TCM all the way your career to the Silence of the Lambs. And we adore you. Thank you all. Thank you, Seb. You were an amazing moderator.
This is Sonia Kashishian, for those of you who are watching who don't know. Thank you. Thank you, Arpa Film Festival. Our founder, please.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're the opening of our festival. It's a little early. If it was a little later, if we had the time schedule that we could have fitted in, this place would have been packed, because everybody loves each one of you. And the community knows very well every one of you. Thank you, Sebastian. You're amazing as always. Thank you. And my darling, tonight you're gonna shine with your film. We can't wait. So
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Maral. Sylvia, thank you. We've known each other for many, many years. We go 30-some years back, and I really appreciate your effort, your dedication with Sonia and Maral to create this for filmmakers. So we have a platform. I really thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much.
And we have a film coming up here shortly. What time does it start in? Film starts in 5 minutes. Thank you.